Gonna try, gonna try, gonna try. Work till I die, till I die, till I die. I'm gonna fail and get up, 'cause I'm not giving up on my dream.
Hi my lovely Frosty fam, it's me, Karen Frost, here at Nail Decadence, and in this video I'm going to be doing an acrylic set, and as you can see on the screen it says that there is a link in the cards to one of my videos. I have two videos on how I make my coloured acrylic powders. I mix them, acrylic powder with mica. I always use Nao to do that with, so that way I know that they are compatible with the Nao monomer and there's no mixing up things, because I don't like to mix brands. I like to use the monomer that goes with the powder from the same brand, so that I know chemically it all works together. But yeah, that's a whole other subject. But yeah, anyway, let's get on with it. So I'm going to be doing a sort of Halloween inspired type milk bath set of nails, which I thought was quite fun. And yeah, I'm going to be using all these little bits and bobs that I'm showing you. I haven't got them, the glitter and stuff linked in the description box. They're just, random bits that I get from eBay, Amazon, AliExpress, those kind of places. The glitter mix that I'm using is actually, I can't remember where I got it from. There's no label on the bag, so no idea. So I'm sorry, I can't say where that came from. So yeah, just a random mix. But I just grabbed a load of bits and bobs and thought, you know what, I'm going to throw it all on the nail. See what happens. And yeah, I think they came out pretty cool. But you may disagree. I'm not really into Halloween and stuff like that. But I just thought, just for some fun. I had some bits in my stash that had been sent to me, and I thought, you know what, I'll use them, even though it's not really my thing. I thought, I'll have a play with the bits and bobs, like the pumpkins and stuff, and fun set of nails just for that, that Halloween season, as it were. So, as you can see, I'm using my wonderful Handolly. As always, you are welcome to use my code. It's Frost10. It's an affiliate code with Handolly, www.handolly.co.uk, if you're interested in a realistic silicone practice hand. So, yeah, Dolly is prepared. She has had her nails prepped, removed the shine, tips applied, blended. I've also applied a thin clear base, and as you can see, I have started with the design. So I'm using a milky white, because as I mentioned, I'm going to be doing sort of a milk bath type of deal with this these little pumpkins and maple leaves and glitter things. I don't even know what those things are. It's like a type of confetti type stuff. So I'm doing it in a style of a milk bath. So what I'm doing is layering. With milk bath nails, the trick is layering, keeping your layers nice and thin, but layering. So I'm just adding small bits of acrylic to stick the little pumpkins and whatnots into, to hold them in place, and then I'm placing some of the milky white acrylic sort of over some of the edges and the middles, just so that it makes it look like they're kind of floating in a milk bath. That's the whole point. But you've got to keep your layers super thin when you do this kind of thing. These little pumpkins, they're only made of paper. They're very, very thin, which is good. The maple leaves are a little bit thicker, and so is the confetti, but as long as you keep that base layer that you're applying them onto really, really thin, you should be fine. But yeah, do pay attention to how much acrylic you're applying, because you do want to encapsulate this entire nail in clear acrylic, and you don't want to be filing into the milk bath and any of the little bits and pieces. So yeah, keep that nice and thin. So what I'm doing is I've left those little pieces to set in place, and I've moved on to the ring finger. Again, I'm using some of the milky white because we're still doing a milk bath type of nail, but it's not going to be the entire nail this time, so you'll see as I go along what I mean. Again, keep this very, very thin. I'm just bending some of those maple leaves because they can have a tendency to stick up, because obviously the nails are curved, it's not a flat surface, so in order to get the pieces to fit flush against the nail, it's handy to just sort of give them a little bend, you know, just squeeze them between your fingers, bend it a little bit, and they'll sit flush to the nail a bit better, and then you're less likely to file into it, you know. So that's why I do that. Again, adding some more of the milky white, keeping it thin, grabbing some bits, giving them a little bend. This was quite a big pumpkin, and I really wanted it to curve onto the nail, so that's why I gave that a bit of a bend. And yeah, stuck that on, grab some more of the confetti whilst the acrylic is wet and just pat that into it. Let that hold it in place for me. I'm trying to make sure I'm not covering the pumpkins with that confetti stuff, but if a little bit gets over it, you know, it's not the end of the world, but I want most of the pumpkin to be visible, so that's why I'm sort of going around it with the confetti type stuff. Again, adding some maple leaves. I've got two different kinds of maple leaves. I've got the smaller sort of less defined maple leaves, and then I've got the ones that are much more pointy, and the pointy ones are a bit bigger, so I thought it'd be nice to use two different styles of the maple leaves. I'm also adding some of it's not gold leaf, it's like copper leaf. It's like a peachy orangey coppery colour. It's really pretty, so I thought I'd add some of that in, just, you know, a bit more interest. And now, as you can see, I'm adding some of the milky white over the top of certain areas. I'm not going to cover the entire nail in it because, as I said before, the milk bath effect for me is having some bits show more than other bits so that it looks like they're floating. If I was to cover it all, it wouldn't make it look like they're at different depths. Do you know what I mean? At different depths. There's TH in depths. It's such a hard word to say. Anyway, yeah, so that's why I do it the way I do it. So yeah, let those set up a bit, let's hold them in place and move on to the index finger. And I'm doing a marble, so I'm applying the 3 or 4 different colours of acrylic depending on how the marble goes. So I'm just literally picking up colours bit one by one. The wet beads, when it comes to marbling, you want your beads to be wet. That was actually a double pickup bead, that last bead that you saw me put on just there on the corner. Especially when you're using black, be careful how much black you're applying. Can you see I only put just a very small amount of the black in because it can overwhelm any other colour very easily. But you see I add very wet beads, one on top of the other, and then I swirl it with the very tip of my brush. You can put the wet acrylic beads next to each other. You don't have to do it the way I'm doing it. I change the way I do it depending on what kind of effect I'm going for, whether I want it really, really marbled or whether I want it more defined. So the choice is yours. So yeah, you can actually say put 3 different coloured beads next to each other and then swirl them together. On this occasion I was placing each colour on top of the previous colour and then swirling them. But yeah, there's no right or wrong way to do a marble, essentially, apart from making sure that the beads are wet so that you have the ability to swirl the colours with your brush. Don't try and swirl them too much because you will just get a muddy mess. All the colours will mix together. But the swirling depends on how much of definition you want between the colours. If you want more definition of the colours, then swirl it less than I did. If you want it to be a much more less defined marble, then what I did would give you that. So yeah, there's no right or wrong way. Just give it a go. and see how it turns out, and then you'll know what kind of style works for you. I'm also adding some of the glitter and the copper leaf onto that nail, as you saw there, and I just put them on and let them stick into the wet product. If the acrylic had dried in any place, I would tend to pick up a small bead of clear acrylic to adhere those pieces, and I've let that set up before I go in and encapsulate afterwards. So I'll let that set up, move on to the little finger, and I'm using this gorgeously dark glittery purple. It's a really pretty colour. Like I said, I mix my own. The majority of the coloured acrylics that I have, I've mixed myself. Yeah, I'm a bit of a DIYer. For my newcomers, yeah, I'm a bit of a DIYer. I like to play around with colours and mix my own. So unless you see in the beginning of the video that it's a branded product, it will be something that I've mixed myself. So there's I can't say where to buy this particular colour from because I mixed it myself, but yeah, it's just a really pretty purple. So I'm doing a baby boomer type ombre type nail, if that makes sense. So what I've done is applied the purple, brought that up 2/3 of the way, and then I'll apply the cover pink over the top, and you can see I'm still keeping it nice and thin because I do want to encapsulate it, but I want to make sure my blend is nice, so I'm going to blend that cover pink down over the purple, but I don't want to cover up too much of the purple. I want that the purple to really be the majority of the nail, to take up most of the space, so that's why I didn't bring the cover pink down. The trick to ombres is to keep your bead wet but not too wet, so that you still get the colour payoff, but you don't have too much of the shadowing going on, if that makes sense. And once I was happy with that, as you saw, I started to encapsulate that nail. I started where the blend had ended with the cover pink. You don't have to start in that area when you're capping it, wherever you want to start with capping, it's up to you. You can start at the cuticle and cap all the way down, or you can start at the free edge, cap all the way up, or you can start in the middle like I did. There's no hard fast rule. Yes, when you're learning and you're training, they tend to like you to start from the free edge and work your way up towards the cuticle area, but that doesn't always work out. So I don't think there needs to be any particular way of doing it, but in the interest of when you're very, very new to it and you're learning your techniques, it is a good idea to start from the free edge and work your way back up to the cuticle area. It just makes laying the acrylic a little bit easier. Once you've got that technique down, you can start capping the nail from wherever you feel like it. And yeah, that's what most people with experience, you'll notice that they do what works for them. It's all about finding what works for you. So just try different techniques. Some people would like to work from the cuticle area down, so it's definitely a lot to do with personal preference and what makes you feel more comfortable and how you're controlling your product. So yeah, don't take it too much as a hard fast rule on how you should apply acrylic. This is how I do it, and this is what works for me. It may work for you, it may not, so just bear that in mind. As you can see, I went back to that middle finger and I'm ombreing the cover pink over that milk bath style pumpkin bath whatever you want to call it. Yeah, so I'm just going to, as you saw, I ombre'd my cover pink over the top, and now I'm encapsulating that because I don't want to file. One, I don't want to file into my ombre and ruin it. Two, I don't want to file into any of my milk bath or my little paper glitter confetti. What else is in there? Oh, gold leaf. No, it's not called gold leaf. Copper leaf. I don't want to file into any of those bits and bobs, so I'm applying my acrylic. Now, the clear acrylic, that is. As I'm applying my clear acrylic, bearing in mind that I kept the layers very, very thin beforehand, this is the time where I'm thinking about the shape and the structure of the nail. This is where I'm going to make sure that my apex is in the back third of the nail to give the nail the strength that it needs to survive, because if we do not add enough strength to a nail, especially ones that are as long as this, the nails will break. It's inevitable. What we don't want to do is add a ton of acrylic so that the nail is overly thick and bulky, because they're just not attractive. We don't want super thick nails. Well, I don't like super thick nails. So yes, your apex does need to be there, and it does need to be substantial. It does not need to be massive. It's not necessary for the nail to be super thick for it to be strong, as long as you're putting that apex in the back third where it needs to be, because that's where most of the stress is placed on the nail. So that's why we need to put the strength in that particular area. So yeah, I'm trying not to lecture you, but I really feel like I'm lecturing you. I'm not trying to lecture you. I'm just trying to be as informative as possible, and I'm really out of practice of doing voiceovers and explaining what I'm doing. It's like when you haven't done something for a while, you kind of forget, and it takes you a little bit to sort of get back into the swing of things. You never forget how to ride a bike, but when you haven't been on a bike in years and you get on a bike, you're a bit wobbly, if that makes sense. So yeah, I'm a bit wobbly right now, trying to find my feet back into the voiceover sphere. And yeah, so bear with me. Sorry if I'm a bit rambly. It's just, yeah, talking to myself was never fun, and I realise I'm talking to you, but at this very moment as I'm recording, I'm essentially talking to myself, which feels very alien and extremely weird. So yeah, highly uncomfortable right now. Oh, good Lord. But I'm sure I will get into the swing of things again. But for now, just give me some slack, please. Anyway, as you can see, just carrying on with the capping. Again, like I said, this is where I'm adding the strength and structure of the nail. I want to make sure it's nice and strong, but not too thick. I like to keep the free edge no thicker than a credit card after filing, so I do allow a small margin of product, so that I know that when I start filing, I'm not going to file into my design underneath the clear acrylic. And with that, whilst I'm finishing that capping, how are you doing, my lovelies? How are you all? I hope you're all doing well. It's been a long old year for me, that's for sure, but I can't believe it's been a really long year, but by the same token, I'm like, oh gosh, it's Christmas in 2 months. Whoa. So yeah, it's going fast but slow. That doesn't logically make any sense, but it totally makes sense in my world. How are you guys? What have you guys been up to, my lovely Frosty fam? Because it's been a while since we've had a little chat, so don't forget to leave me a comment, fill me in. What's all the goss? What's been happening? I love talking to you guys. Yeah, so I'd love to hear how you're all doing. And of course, if anyone is having a hard time, remember to talk to someone, whether that be a friend, family member, a professional, talk to someone, please. I urge you all to talk to someone. Mental illness is not a joke, and so many people go through it, so never feel ashamed. But asking for help is never something to fear or be ashamed of. So yeah. Anywho, so I'm onto the filing now for my Frosty filing freaks. If you are not one of my triple Fs, you can skip to the timestamp that flashed up on the corner of the screen, and that will take you to the next stage of the designing this set of nails. But for my Frosty filing freaks, as usual, here we go. So I have started to use my e-file straight away on this occasion. Sometimes I use my hand file and do the sidewalls and free edge, sometimes I don't. I have various different routines that I use when I am filing. However, I will stick to one particular routine per set of nails, so that I do the same thing on each nail of that set, so that each nail has a more consistent shape and thickness and width. To get a uniform set of nails. We're not expecting every nail to look exactly the same. What we are expecting is for each nail to coincide with the nails around it, so that it's a uniform set, it's a group, it's a group, they all belong together kind of thing. What you don't want is one nail thin, one nail thick, one nail slim, one nail wide. That's why a routine in your filing is very, very important, and something that you should be mindful of if you want a set that is uniform. So as you saw, I did begin with a particular e-file bit, but I wasn't happy with the way it was filing. So I switched to a different smaller bit, and I used that to go around the cuticle area, and you'll notice I went through each cuticle area on each nail first before I then switched to a different e-file bit, and now I'm continuing where I began with that first e-file bit, if that makes sense. So I didn't I started on the body of the nail with that first e-file bit, so that's why I've moved on to the next nail using a different e-file bit and gone into the body and sidewalls, because I'd already done that on the little finger. So what I'm doing is just making debulking, removing any lumps and bumps. I'm tidying up the sidewalls and the underarch so that I've got less to do with my hand file. I have joint and muscle pain, so the less I can do with the hand file, the easier it is for me with my cramps and stuff. So I utilize my e-file to the best of my advantage. Basically, it's going to save my little finger. I don't believe this. My phone has started to try and talk to me again. Stop it, phone. No, I didn't ask you anything. Oh my gosh. Stop it. Why is this phone always listening to me? I did not tell it to activate. I think I need to turn it off when I'm doing voiceovers at this point. Why is it always listening? Oh, I've totally lost my train of thought now. I'm not going to re-record this bit. I'm going to leave it in. Welcome to my world. Let the insanity reign. What was I saying? Yeah, about using my hand file. So as you saw, I just did a bit of debulking. There wasn't a huge amount of filing to do on these nails, thank goodness, because they are very long. So I hadn't over applied too much acrylic on them, so there was minimal filing for me to do, thank goodness. There could always be less filing, that could have been, my application could have been a bit neater, but on a whole my application wasn't too bad, so there wasn't a huge amount of filing to do, which is always a good thing. But we all have our off days. Sometimes I do apply too much acrylic, and yeah, these things happen, and it just means that you end up filing for your life. And I'm really sorry about my camera. I hadn't noticed that with me filing, I was shaking the camera because it's attached to my desk, of course, and the I hadn't tightened up the screws that were holding the camera in place, and you can see where the camera is just jiggled jiggled off to the side there. Really sorry about that, but I'm still in frame, so there we go, I've noticed that. Oh dear. So what I'm doing at the moment is I'm just using my hand file to go on the under arch and file the side walls nice and straight, get them in line. You'll see I stop and look often. The reason why I stop and look often is I don't want a nail to be wonky. I don't want it to be narrow compared to the other nails. I don't want it to be thick compared to the other nails. So if you stop and look and compare it to the nails you've done previously, you're more likely to get a uniform set. If I just focus on that one nail, go ham at it, I'm less likely to get a uniform set because I'm only focusing on one nail at a time. Whereas if you are stopping often and comparing, the likelihood of you getting a uniform set is much, much higher. For me, that is the ultimate trick to filing, is paying attention to all of the nails and how they look together. So yeah, I just really sharpened up those sidewalls and the free edge, squared them off really nicely, and now I'm just going to use my e-file again, but this time using my sanding band, and this is where I'm going to smooth over the surface of the nail so that it has a nice beautiful curve from sidewall to sidewall in a nice arch. That's what you're looking for, a lovely arch that is rounded off. Where I've filed the sidewalls using my hand file, it kind of leaves a squared off ledge on the sidewalls, so you want to blend that in to the rest of the nail so that it's nice and curved. Pay attention to that, because personally I like my nails to be nice and curved. I don't want to see that very sharp, harsh edge to the sidewalls. Blend it in and then you won't have that. You can do the same thing using a hand file if that's easier for you than using a sanding band. For me, obviously, a sanding band's easier because it's less stress on my fingers and my wrists, but you can definitely do this with a hand file. You would literally just go up the side walls, around the cuticle area, down the other side wall, you know, in that kind of U-shaped pattern, and then down the center of the nail in a sort of violin motion, and that would give you a nice rounded curved nail. With the e-file, it's a similar process, but it's done a little differently because obviously the sanding band is a much smaller surface than a full-size hand file. So the technique is somewhat different, but it's essentially doing the same thing. So where I'm doing the up and down motion, as you can see now, this is where I'm blending that harsh edge that I was talking about on the sidewalls. I'm blending that into the rest of the nails, and then I make sure that I'm going side to side so that that curve is there. Now look, what you will need to do is look down the barrel of the nail to make sure the nail is even from sidewall to sidewall, that, you know, one side of the nail isn't thicker than the other. That will also, by looking down the barrel of the nail, show you if there are any high areas or low areas that you need to take care of. And then you want to turn also the nail to the side and look at it from the side profile to make sure that all of your apexes are in a similar position or a similar height, and that there is a nice slope up from the cuticle area to your apex, and then that slowly goes down as it goes toward the free edge. You won't be able to see these kind of inconsistencies if you are just looking at a bird's eye view. It will always look good from a straight on bird's eye view, which you're having now in the video. That's what I would class as a bird's eye view, which is just looking straight down on top of the nails, unless you turn those nails around and up and down to the side, you will not see any imperfections. So that's important. And you also see that I swipe my thumb down the nail. That's also to the you may not see a bump, but your thumb or your fingers will. They can feel it for you. So that's why I do that. I swipe down, and if there are any lumps that I can feel with my thumb, then I will continue filing until that lump is gone. Once I'm happy with that, I just use, I don't do this all the time, but on occasion I will use my hand file to just smooth over the surface of the nail. Like I said, when you're using a sanding band, you don't necessarily have to use a buffing file afterwards. It's all personal preference and what you're needing to get done that day. On this occasion, I decided I wanted to smooth the nails just that little bit more, so I grabbed a buffing file and, as you can see, just gave the nails a bit of a whiz over, and then I give them a final check over and see if everything's okay, and if it's not, they get a bit more of a buff. You see I'm feeling with my thumb there, just making sure that any little lumps and bumps are not there anymore, and if I feel any, I use the file a bit more. Dust it off. Happy with that. And I always run the file underneath the nails. This is because I can't stand those little frills that you get underneath the nails. It really jars my brain. I can't stand them. So yeah, I'll always go underneath and remove any of the little frills because they drive me nutty. And yeah, stop and look, compare them all, and once you're happy, then you can go and give the hands a lovely wash. Remove all the dust, and now it's time to top it off and keep it tough. Oh yes, best part. So after washing the hands with soap and water using a nail brush to give them a good old scrub, what you want to do is give them a wipe over with a lint-free wipe and some rubbing alcohol. That will remove any of the moisturizers that are contained within the soap. Very important if you want your top coat to stick very well. And then of course, once that rubbing alcohol has a chance to dry, then you can go in and apply your top coat. And so, as you can see, the reveal for the milk bath is, I think it's cute. What do you think? Let me know. Do you think it's cute? I think it's a cute little design. I quite like how the little milk bath nails turned out. And the reveal on the marble nail, I love the glitter. Oh, it's so pretty. I think it came out quite nice, that marble. Anyway, that also means we are unfortunately at the end of the video, or maybe fortunately for some of you, maybe you've had enough of hearing me ramble for so long. But I'd like to take this opportunity to say thank you ever so much for coming to my channel, watching this video, spending some of your most precious time with me. I appreciate you ever so much. Thank you. If you would like to join the Frosty Fam, please go ahead and click that subscribe button. I'd love to have you. We're a growing little community and I'm happy about that. It's great. Yeah, click it. Subscribe. If you've enjoyed this video or it's helped you in any way, shape or form, do please click that like button. It really does help my channel out. It means a lot to me. I'd really appreciate it. It gives me feedback. And if you feel like it, you're more than welcome to leave me a comment. I love talking to you guys. But this is the final design. As you can see, here are the photos. That's all I've got for this time, peeps. You take care now, and I'll speak to you all again very, very soon. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.
Someday soon, I'm gonna make